Question 1. GNI/MP gross national income equals. Options. A. GDP MP plus tax subsidy plus compensation to employees plus property income. B. GDP FC plus tax subsidy. C. GDP MP tax plus subsidy plus compensation to employees, property income. D. None of the above. Answer. A. GDP MP plus tax subsidy plus compensation to employees plus property income. Question 2. In product method of GDP calculation, how many sectors are there? Options. A. 15. B. 6. C. 10. D. 8. Answer. D. 8. Question 3. What is NNP? Options. A. Net new product. B. Net national product. C. New national product. D. None of the above. Answer. B. Net national product. Question 4. Factors of production are. Options. A. Land. B. Land, labor. C. Land, labor, entrepreneur. D. Land, labor, entrepreneur, capital. Answer. D. Land, labor, entrepreneur, capital. Question 5. GDP full form. Options. A. Gross domestic price. B. Gross domestic product. C. Gross domestic pull. D. All of the above. Answer. B. Gross domestic product. Question 6. NDP equals. Options. A. GDP, indirect tax. B. GDP, depreciation. C. GDP plus depreciation. D. None of these. Answer. B. GDP, depreciation. Question 7. When GDP is calculated on the basis of some base year, it is called. Options. A. Nominal GDP. B. Normal GDP. C. Real GDP. D. None. Answer. C. Real GDP. Question 8. GDP does not reflect the total income of a country if county is oriented economy. Options. A. Product. B. Import. C. Export. D. Profit. Answer. C. Export. Question 9. GNP full form. Options. A. Gross national price. B. Gross national product. C. Gross national pull. D. None of the above. Answer. B. Gross national product. Question 10. Market price is also called. Options. A. Economic price. B. Nominal price. C. Repo price. D. GDP price. Answer. A. Economic price. Question 11. GDP FC equals. Options. A. GDP FC indirect tax plus subsidy. B. GDP MP indirect tax plus subsidy. C. GDP MP plus indirect tax, subsidy. D. None of the above. Answer. B. GDP MP indirect tax plus subsidy. Question 12. Today's output at today's price is measured in which GDP? Options. A. Current GDP. B. Cash GDP. C. Constant GDP. D. Consistent GDP. Answer. A. Current GDP. Question 13. Real GDP is one in which we calculate value of today's out at yesterday's price. It is also known as. Options. A. Current price GDP. B. Constant price GDP. C. Fiscal GDP. D. None of the above. Answer. B. Constant price GDP. Question 14. Which one is not a major component in income approach in GDP calculation? Options. A. Property income. B. Production taxes and depreciation. C. Compensation of employees. D. All of the above are important component. Answer. D. All of the above are important component. Question 15. If a country consider the environmental issues while calculating the GDP, then this GDP is called. Options. A. Natural GDP. B. Green GDP. C. Environmental GDP. D. Forest GDP. Answer. B. Green GDP. Question 16. To understand the welfare of people, the GDP should be supplemented with some other indicators like. Options. A. Human Development Index. B. Social Development Index. C. Social Welfare Index. D. None of the above. Answer. A. Human Development Index. Question 17. Human Development Index (HDI) is developed by. Options. A. WHO. B. WTO. C. World Bank. D. IMF. Answer. C. World Bank. Question 18. Market price equals. Options. A. Factor cost plus indirect tax, subsidy. B. Factor cost, indirect tax plus subsidy. C. Factor cost plus subsidy plus indirect tax. D. None of these. Answer. A. Factor cost plus indirect tax, subsidy. Question 19. Which are methods for GDP calculation? Options. A. Income method. B. Expenditure method. C. Product-wise method. D. All of the above. Answer. D. All of the above. Question 20. Nominal GDP is also known as. Options. A. GDP at constant price. B. GDP at fixed price. C. GDP at current price. D. GDP at base year price. Answer. C. GDP at current price.